everybody. Welcome to Aroma Chat. I am excited today to invite my friend Crystal into the chat room. She owns and operates Vines of Wellness, and it's kind of a fusion between herbalism and aromatherapy. So I am just thrilled to bring her to you so that you can get to know her and what she does, and give you the opportunity to just hear straight from the horse's mouth about everything that she is doing with her aromatherapy and her herbalism. So everybody, welcome Crystal. Hey Crystal.
Hello.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm good. I love your fancy gaming headphones.
Thank you. With all of the people in my house, this is the only way we can really do calls.
Right. I put some in my Amazon box on my wish list because of the same reason.
Right.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. In fact, my daughter is currently putting a sign on my door that says, "Do not disturb."
Oh, excellent. Very good. So how many
So
kids
hopefully.
do you have?
5.
Okay. And you're homeschooling all of them, correct?
Well, this year I'm homeschooling 3 of them because
Okay.
I've graduated 2.
Whoop, whoop, whoop.
One is 20 years old and has a full-time job. And she still lives at home.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other one, the second one, she is heading off to Houghton College in about 3 weeks.
Oh, that's exciting.
Yeah.
That's very exciting. And as a homeschool mom, it's just exciting when they graduate, right?
Right.
Because you feel like, okay, we've accomplished something.
Yeah. And here in Pennsylvania, they actually get a state diploma.
Right.
So that's actually a great benefit there.
Right.
So I have an 11th grader, a 9th grader, and a 7th grader at home.
Oh, that's so exciting. Now, have you homeschooled since pre-K all the way? That's awesome.
Yes.
That's awesome. Can I ask you what drew you to homeschooling?
So I was one of those kids that was just kind of the anomaly growing up. So they never really quite knew what to do with me. And because of that, I didn't have a great feeling about sending my children to school,
right,
particularly, but also had all the confidence in the world that I could do just as good a job, if not better.
Right.
So between that and the fact that we saw like some of the direction that the curriculum and so on was going in the public schools, my husband and I decided, you know what, we're going to do this. And so this is the path that we chose. We've never looked back. And it's been a great thing. Grade levels don't exist in homeschooling. We can teach whatever we want, even in Pennsylvania.
I know. Well, I know I've said this to you before, but I feel like you and I are peas in a pod. Because honestly, my story is very similar to why we chose to homeschool our kids. Very interesting. We're going to have to talk more about this on another call or something, because that's very interesting. So what got you into herbalism and aromatherapy?
So my mom used to take me berry hunting all summer, and I would work in the garden. Mm-hmm. And when I was about 12, old enough to have a farm card, I worked at a farm every summer. And so using food and using herbs was sort of the normal course of how we did things. So when I had bronchitis, my mom would fix me celery seed tea and other remedies like that. And we only went to the doctor if we were dying. And so that was sort of my background in seeing this works and how I grew up with it.
Right.
But then after I started having children, I got to the point where I was 30 and I had just had my 3rd child, and I had an ear infection that went on for 4 months and just never went away. And I took antibiotic after antibiotic, and then they started adding the steroids to that. And the doctor said, well, the reason you're so sick is because you have so many children. And I said, well, that's not acceptable. So a friend recommended a chiropractor, and I went, and he did his thing. I sat up and my whole head drained. No more ear infection.
Right.
So he said, when you go home, you might want to consider taking this tea to just help the lymph continue to move
Right.
and to help drainage. And that sort of re-sparked my interest in herbal medicine. So from there, of course, I'm a lifetime learner. So I started taking classes at what was Vintage Remedies with Jessie Hawkins,
Mm-hmm.
and did all of her family herbalism courses. And she had just started teaching aromatherapy, so I did that. Then I transitioned into Franklin Institute of Wellness and did her professional aromatherapy course, as well as the diploma of dietary supplements, and just continued along that way. And when one of my children was 7, we found out she had a genetic disorder that affected her adrenal glands.
Mm-hmm.
And the doctors were shocked that she wasn't more sick than she was. But a lot of it had to do with, we did a lot with nutrition and a lot with herbs when they were little. So she is, she does have to take medicine every day to replace what she doesn't make.
Right.
But that sort of leads me into the aromatherapy, because I was big on Earl Grey tea and I loved bergamot,
Mm-hmm.
and we would use that for stress. And when your adrenal glands don't work, stress is a major factor.
Yes.
So we would drink Earl Grey tea and we would smell it, and I'm like, ooh, I need to know more about this. So that's when I started the aromatherapy classes. And that just built from there. And my training is as a mathematician and an engineer.
Mm-hmm.
So because of that background, I wanted science.
Right.
So that's what led me in that direction, as opposed to the more, I'm not sure what you would call it, not holistic, because it's a very holistic view. Yeah. Not the woo-woo direction.
Right.
Much more science-based.
Right. No, I totally understand that. And your story seems to be such a common thread among aromatherapists. There's usually a health issue that points us in that direction, or we grew up doing that. But then also that idea of the lifelong learning, I'm finding with just about everybody I'm interviewing, that's like one of the common themes among all of us, that we can't get enough.
Right.
I don't just get my certification and stop. I keep going. Even if I'm not enrolled in a course, I'm reading a book. I've got a stack of books behind me. Reading,
yes,
constantly learning. So that is, I think that's just really cool that seems to be a common thread among
right.
all the aromatherapists, is that lifelong learning.
For sure. Yeah, always reading a book, always taking a class. I'm taking Rhiannon Lewis's class on respiratory illness right now.
Excellent. Very good. She's good.
So
yes, all the names you're mentioning, I'm like, yes.
And last year I got to go home to where I'm originally from to study with Madeline Kirchhoff, because she was in the beautiful Finger Lakes of Western New York. So that was lovely.
Very nice. The other thing you mentioned is your mathematics and engineering background, which actually plays beautifully into aromatherapy. I don't know if people recognize or know about that connection of the energetics of aromatherapy are very much involved in engineering. It's that same type of thought process around how essential oils work.
And that's how I got into distilling, because it wasn't enough to just get the little bottles in the mail. I had to know, how do we do this?
Right.
Which then led to a giant still in the backyard, which then led to classes on foraging to increase that knowledge.
Right.
So I have an aromatic garden that I distill my own hydrosols. I don't usually sell them, distribute them, because of all the testing and everything that's involved there, but I will do them for friends and things like that, and for our home use. And I just love doing my hydrosols and distilling.
What is your most favorite recent distillation?
Oh, we had a hemlock tree that had to come down because it was growing in between our house and the neighbor's house. It wasn't diseased at all, but the roots were starting to come out because of wind and rain. So we had to take it down because it was going to eventually fall and cause damage. So during the first weeks of the lockdown, my husband and my son cut that tree down. This is beautiful, tall hemlock.
Mm-hmm.
So we took that, and I took all the leaves, all the needles, soaked them and distilled them. I distilled them for a whole week because I had different batches. I have a 40-liter still, and it took me 6 batches in that still in order to process all of what I had. So right now, those hemlock needles, that's my favorite distillation. I got several gallons, I think like 8 gallons of the hydrosol,
Oh, wow.
and about 15 milliliters of essential oil.
Wow. That's
So
amazing. So what would you use hemlock for?
So hemlock is actually very specific to the adrenal glands.
Imagine that. God is good.
So we use that when we need it, when we think the stress levels are getting too high. I've been able to avoid doing some stress dosing because of heading off that stress before we get to that point, before the body says, I need lots of cortisol.
Right.
So we use hemlock and we use bergamot. So
that's amazing. God is good. That's all
yes, absolutely.
So tell us about Vines of Wellness and what people come to you for when they come to Vines of Wellness. What do they seek you out for?
So ironically, the people that have generally come to me have come to me for something that is sort of out of my lane.
Okay.
It's usually, how can I help with hypertension? And so we'll talk about some maybe food items that we can do, and maybe some herbs, maybe some aromatherapy just to calm down that nervous system. But I also, sort of the area that I like to work in the most is with babies and doing diaper rash creams. I'll do poison ivy creams for people. And that's a combination of herbalism and aromatherapy.
Mm-hmm.
So, because with babies, with poison ivy, we're not using a lot of essential oil, but we might use a little bit for inflammation.
Right.
Because it's a little stronger than our herbs once it's in an oil maceration. So
it's mostly like rashes. You like
yeah,
the skin.
Right. I do a lot of skin work, a lot of baby work, a lot of just general family care and support. Just because that's sort of my age group, and that's the people who I'm talking to and spending time with all the time.
Right.
So
oh, that's exciting.
Yeah.
Yes.
I love my hydrosols for that too.
Mm-hmm.
Even when my babies were babies, we did that a lot. I would use calendula hydrosol every time I changed their diaper, because it was pretty, it wasn't ever going to cause any harm.
Right.
Because your hydrosols are so low dose. And so we would do that. And then if we had to, we would go with the diaper rash cream. Right.
People don't think like that though, in general.
Right.
General population. So that's exciting. So what is the biggest stumbling block that you find in your aromatherapy and herbalism business?
Me. Oh, honestly, just the lack of self-confidence, I guess. Like, I know that I have all of this knowledge, but I'm not very good at promoting myself at all.
I kind of find that that's a common theme among aromatherapists also. We're not, well, I think it's because we're not out there to make the big buck.
Right.
We want to help people. And I think we have that thought in our mind that if people want what I have to offer, they'll find me.
Right. So
hopefully what I'm doing here with all my aromatherapist friends will help people find you. Yes.
Well, thank you.
No, I understand that thought process though. And I think we have that imposter syndrome going on.
Right.
Big time, because we're not doctors. We don't diagnose. We don't treat things. We help you discover how to get well.
Right.
Oh, I do think we struggle with that for sure. Okay, so down to the nitty gritty. what are your top 3 favorite either essential oils, hydrosols, or herbs, or all of them? You share.
So bergamot is where I fell in love with aromatherapy. So that is always my favorite, and it's always the reliable one. So anytime we're talking about stress management, that's the one to go to. It's comforting for most people. And I'm using it in an aromatherapy way because topically it does have some issues. So especially for those of us who go between ghost and lobster, we definitely don't want to be putting bergamot on the skin.
I have a few of those in my family, yes.
So I would say the second one, and this is a recent love, is alligator juniper.
I know where you get that.
Yes. So, and I'll give a shout out to my friend Lola at Be Kind Botanicals because she has the most lovely alligator juniper. So, and it's just a delightful oil to work with. And it's, again, like the bergamot, like the hemlock, it's just very good at calming that nervous system, calming the adrenals, kind of short-circuiting that stress, the over-stress response. And then lastly is dill, which seems like a very strange one. But in my work with adrenal insufficiency, the biggest problem is vomiting and stomach bugs.
Okay, that makes sense.
Because once you get into that situation, not only can you no longer ingest the medication that your body's not making, your body calls for 3 times more of it than you would normally have anyway. It's just the way that the body works. When you vomit, you need 3 times more cortisol than what you would otherwise. So dill is extremely important for that population that does not make their own cortisol, whether it's Addison's disease or whether it's the genetic congenital adrenal hyperplasia. Either way, if you're not making cortisol and you're vomiting, you have 2 problems. You need more, you can't make enough. So dill calms down the stomach. And most people with adrenal issues also have problems with salt and sugar balance. Their electrolytes get very messed up, and it gets even more messed up when you're in this stomach situation.
Right.
So dill pickles is something that all the endocrinologists push on people with adrenal issues because it increases all of those great sugars and salts. So the smell of dill is something that's very familiar, very comforting to people that deal with this on a regular basis. But it also, because it's part of that carrot family with fennel and so on, it does act to settle the stomach, and it does it quickly and easily. So I use that with any of my kids that are car sick, and I use that for my adrenal people because we really need to short circuit that vomiting now if we can. So at least give us enough time to get help.
Right. So what I'm hearing from you is that, yes, the scent is part of it, but it's more therapeutic is what you're looking at your essential oil.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very cool. Because there's, different ways to view it, right? I could just be all about inhaling, or I could be all about targeting those issues. So it sounds to me like you're more of a targeting the issue kind of gal.
Yes. Well, for this, yes.
Excellent. Did you want to share your top 3 hydrosols, or would it be the same?
Oh, I love calendula. It's not a particularly aromatic hydrosol, but it's great for any kind of skin inflammation, and it's safe for babies, and I just love it for that reason. So I like goldenrod essential oil, hydrosol, goldenrod hydrosol. The essential oil I find is a little too powerful for my nose, but the hydrosol has this beautiful body and smell to it. And when we distill it, the bees will just swarm around the still, and it's just amazing.
Yeah, they're loving
So yeah, they adore it. But I actually use that in an inhalation, with a steam inhalation with a bowl and a towel, for seasonal allergies. Is how I use that. The essential oil, although it gives me a lot when I'm distilling, I just feel that it's too much. And using the more gentle hydrosol is perfect for that. And then I would say any of my woods. I just adore woods. So
do you distill all of these yourself that you're talking about? Or do you purchase these?
yes, I have distilled all three of them. So I've also distilled bee balm, which is great for anything respiratory. And I've distilled lemon balm and peppermint and spearmint and anise hyssop, which is a really interesting herb. So it's part of the mint family, but it tastes like black licorice.
Oh, interesting. Well, it's anise. Yeah.
Well, it's in the mint family, and it's called anise hyssop. Some people will actually confuse it with a butterfly bush because it has these spikes of lavender flowers on them. So it's a really kind of a different herb to grow.
Right.
But I love that smell and that taste. So I'll distill that and I'll use that. I'll use that when I'm making cookies.
Oh, nice.
So, because it just gives that little spritz of flavor and scent.
Excellent. So I just because I know you and I follow you on Instagram and Facebook, I know that you have a lovely off the grid place that you guys get to go. Is that where you grow all of your plants, or do you grow them at your home? Or do you do both?
So both.
Okay.
So I grow an aromatic garden here at our home. And out at our land, we have 130 acres of reclaimed forestry land. So it had been strip cut, and we purchased it, and we've let it grow up wild. So in there, that's where I get all my goldenrod. That's where I get my Queen Anne's lace, which is another beautiful hydrosol to use. It doesn't really give you much essential oil, but it gives a beautiful hydrosol that is great for lots of different skin issues. My teenage daughter uses it for a toner.
Nice.
On her skin.
Nice.
So, and I get some of my woods, pine needles early in the spring when they're just starting to grow and get those growth buds on them. I'll use those pine needles from the white pine that's up there.
Very cool. So what is exciting you right now as an herbalist and aromatherapist?
I'm loving that so many people are now interested in gardening. And
yes,
yes,
it has exploded.
It was a little frustrating back when I was trying to buy my seeds for the year.
Right.
Because I shop the medicinal seeds, and they were sold out. I was shocked. Like, it didn't surprise me that, your corn and your peas and tomatoes, that all of those were gone. It surprised me when I went to get calendula, because it's an annual, so I have to plant it every year. I'm like, ooh, I hope the seeds I saved will actually come up, because
they're gone.
I'm not being able to get any commercially.
Right.
So, but that's been frustrating, but also very, very exciting that so many people are now interested in growing their own, not just food, but also herbal remedies, and starting to look into that as a viable alternative.
Right. Well, I'm excited that you're excited about that, because it's very similar to gyms at New Year's, right? So all these people make New Year's resolutions and join the gym, and people that go to the gym regularly are frustrated because there's so many new people and they have to wait for machines, right?
Right.
So instead of being frustrated that you can't find your seeds, you're stepping back and realizing this is a beautiful thing that all these people are recognizing their need for something better in their life. That's exciting.
Yeah,
that's
for
a
sure
perspective. I love it. So during COVID-19, people are realizing self-care is very important. right? People who never took care of themselves before are realizing how stressed they were, and then realizing what they need to start doing for themselves. So what are you doing for yourself right now, throughout this whole COVID-19 thing, with your business, raising kids, homeschooling? What are you doing for self-care?
So I am walking a lot. I'm walking about 5 miles a day. And I can't say that I didn't have the time before, but now that I'm not driving children 4 or 5 times a day to different places, because most of them don't have their license and the ones that do are working, that has given me time to really get outside and walk every single day. And because my husband has been working from home this entire time, he was working in Manhattan. Obviously, that wasn't the ideal situation. So he's been able to telecommute this whole time. So every lunch break, and often before breakfast, we'll be able to get out and walk for about 2 miles. Outside, we have the Delaware River 2 blocks away from us, and we walk the towpath and see all the turtles and the flowers. And I drool over the nettles because they don't grow in my yard, but they grow along the canal.
Right. Is it legal to pick them?
It is not, because it's part of the state park
Right.
system.
That's what I figured.
I've been very tempted, but I haven't.
So realizing that walking has been important for you, do you feel like you're going to be able to continue that trend even after everything quiets down and goes back to normal?
I hope so. I think the discipline of having my husband say, okay, well, now it's time to go, is very important.
That's helpful.
A big motivator.
Yeah.
So
husbands are good for that. Yeah.
Yes. So I don't know that I have necessarily that ambition in and of myself, but I'm more than happy to do it if he starts that.
Right. I find if I don't have it written on my schedule, I just go and do other things. But if I write down, yoga, if I write down my Bali X, if I write down my body weight training, I'll do it. But if I don't have it written down, I'll find something else to do. For sure. So are you working on anything very specific right now in your business that you'd like to share with everyone?
I really haven't been of late. I've really been focusing much more on my volunteer work rather than the business work. I do have a friend having a baby here very soon, so I'll be putting together my little care kit for her.
Very nice.
So, in fact, that was a special request from her, as this is third baby. So she's like, I know you do all of these things. I need these 3 before baby comes. So I'll do like one-offs like that. Mm-hmm. But more so, I've been concentrating on the volunteer work that I do through AIA.
Okay. So my final question, unless you have something else you'd like to share, is how can people find you?
So I'm on Facebook and Instagram at Vines of Wellness. That's usually the easiest way to find me. I'm very responsive.
Okay.
So, and I can also email, is very easy and quick, and I respond very quickly to that. And that's just Crystal at vinesofwellness.com. Okay. I have a blog at Vines of Wellness.
All right. And then when you work with people, is it just like a one-on-one consultation? Do you do that on the I'm assuming everything's on the internet right now, but normally you do face-to-face, I'm assuming, or is it mostly?
Yes. Normally it's face-to-face. I'm located in Bucks County in Pennsylvania, so right on the Delaware, north of Philadelphia. I can see New Jersey. I'm that close. Okay. But yeah, normally I do face-to-face work. I can do internet consultations, but I really prefer to be able to see, because sometimes you can pick things up just in mannerisms and behavior that you might not be able to see in a virtual format.
Right. One more question. Do you find that people in Pennsylvania, where you are very receptive to what you do, or do most people just still run to the doctor for everything?
So I think the particular area where I am, it's somewhat more affluent, I guess, than other places in Pennsylvania. And going to the doctor is a more typical thing rather than where I grew up in very rural areas where we just didn't go.
Right.
But I think the other part is we really truly are overrun with every single direct sales that you could imagine. Just completely overrun. Everybody is involved with everything that you can think of. And so because of that, it makes it very challenging to differentiate my knowledge and education experience from that, particularly since I don't sell anything.
Right, right.
I'll create bespoke products for someone as an individual, but I don't have a line. So
Right. That is a challenge, and I find that I struggle with that as well, because I do what you do. I work one-on-one with people and create those bespoke blends for them. I don't have anything that's generic.
right.
It's difficult.
Yeah, Marguerite Maury with the whole individual prescription. And although we don't use the word prescription in what we do,
Right.
the concept is something that we still use the spirit of that.
Right. The individual protocol is what I say.
Yes.
So, well, Crystal, thank you so much.
Thank you.
I'm glad to hear more of your story, and we'll definitely have to chat off of this and get to know each other a little bit more, because I think we're kindred spirits here.
Yes.
All right. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate you.
Okay, you have a good night.
All right. Bye.
Okay, bye-bye.